This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not provide medical or legal advice. Please consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions regarding your health or legal situation.
On the subject of marijuana in particular. That is the purpose of this meeting, ladies and gentlemen, to lay the foundation for a nationwide campaign by you to demand by law such compulsory education.
High in the Ozark Mountains, it's the Greene County Podcast with Mike and Mason.
Mike Mason, Greene County Podcast. It is kind of a special time of the year, you know. The flowers are blooming, the trees are blooming. We all got allergies, but we're spending more time outside doing the things that we love while we partake in the magical plant known as marijuana. So on today's episode, Mason and I are going to sit in here and discuss some of our favorite music to listen to while partaking in marijuana.
And also there's going to be a huge, big 420 event that we're going to be talking about in a bit. So
we get to talking about our favorite types of music. My answer is going to be a very long-winded one. So I'm going to ask you.
Well, let's
first.
go back and forth. Oh, man, how do we even start with this?
Well, that's why I'm saying my window is going to be a lot longer because I could go by genre. I could go by subgenre. I could go by artist. I could go by, there's so many different things I would tell you. Go through it.
And are we listing the artists we like that partake? Or are we listing the music that we like to listen to when?
You know,
we can do it all. We've got a whole episode, man.
Well, then let's just start with your top 3 albums.
Honestly, okay.
Or how about
I'll throw this out there. Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay.
Right?
That's a very low-hanging fruit.
That's what I'm saying. It's easy to start with.
Right next to the tree there on the ground.
It's easy to start with. It is a great album. It pairs up with so many things.
I mean, you could give, we could be like giving everyone what they already know. But why don't we do it from the perspective of giving people albums that they might not know would be good to listen to while stoned?
Okay. How about this? Any Explosions in the Sky album.
Good.
I love it. It's all musical. There's no lyrical content whatsoever. And every album is a journey. It tells a story from track 1 to track end. It's beautiful.
I describe them as a band in context of art versus art and music. Like there are certain artists like Radiohead or Bob Dylan or whatever that when they write songs, they are almost as if they are portraits or pictures of scenes, Explosions is a band, like I would describe their music as a landscape. And it's a scene, it's not a scene so much as it's an entire landscape. But yeah, you were right.
When the eclipse came, you know what I did?
You listen to that?
I threw on an album. It was so beautiful. I threw on an album, I lit up a joint. And for the entire 4 minutes and 20 seconds of totality that I got to experience, it was the most beautiful thing in the world.
Well, we played Dark Side of the Moon front to back during that time, so that's why we did that.
See?
We do that every time. On that note, if you're looking for instrumental, there's a band I've been listening to just in an insane amount recently. They're called Fuboot Sushi, I think.
Fuboot Sushi?
You spell the name it's all one word, Fuubutsushi. I find a lot of new music because I follow a subreddit called Vinyl Releases as a vinyl collector. It kind of keeps me up on new stuff that's coming, new stuff that's been repressed, etc., so forth. And recently this band got posted and I saw the name and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I looked and they usually put the genre and it was jazz ambient. So I was like, oh, okay. Those guys are just, the music they put on those records are absolutely beautiful. I cannot recommend them enough. If you are in a bad space, if you need a good space, if you just need something to keep you occupied, Fuboot Sushi, man, they have been definitely up to the task for me recently, which is I'm very thankful for.
I'm going to have to listen to them. You always have great suggestions.
Well, I'm extremely obsessed about music, and I'm constantly listening to it.
Yeah, dude, when you told me about the Diggable Planets.
Yeah, it's a great, that's old school.
That is so good.
But that's old school hip-hop. I love this guys. So give me another one.
Oh, how about this? We have such different music styles. First off, it's hilarious. What about Song, Ben Harper, Burn One Down?
Yeah.
Yeah?
This would actually be a good time to talk about this. I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, I found it first. you know, and then when everyone starts to look at it and they're like, and it's like, everyone likes this, no good, it's not cool anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's not that so much as those things. I know that song and I get it. It's, you know, it's like Smoke Two Joints for Sublime or any other Bob Marley song in the world. I hate those things because it's like, it's almost as if, like I always say, sometimes fan bases ruin the artist.
Yeah.
Sublime would be a good example of that. All the marketing that's been done to Bob Marley.
You know what I would say? You know what I would say? Don't let other people's manipulations of things ruin your love of it.
But it does. I mean, it's just at a certain point, like those early Sublime records are phenomenal. Like they're so good. Bob Marley albums, unbelievably well done. But it's just clouded in this like, oh, it's just a bunch of pot smoking music.
Well,
like,
yeah,
that's not true. I hate that. But it is what it is. Okay, rant over. And again, if you like this music and you're like, you know, screw what you're saying, Mike, that's fine. I'm not judging you for liking these bands, liking this stuff.
Why you got to be a hater, Mike?
It's just, it always kind of gives me this bad, I don't know why, it's just one of those hangups I have. But again,
Mike is totally the guy that's like, I was there before you and now it's done.
Well, I don't want to literally know there. I know that's what it comes across as, and I don't want it to come across that way, but I got to say it because that's the way I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. It's just one of those things. And maybe it is because another band, Khruangbin, would be a great example. I've been listening to those guys since their first record. Now they're touring the world. They sell out. They're playing all over the place. Everyone knows them. They're great, and I love it. I've seen them 4 times. They're amazing. But they're mine.
They're yours. They're not yours,
I know.
Man. They're theirs.
They were mine first.
Shit. You should be thanking them that they allow you to be their fan.
Talk about them either way. All right. I just stopped buying their stuff. It's that easy.
Well, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with some more Green County Podcast.
All right, we're back. Now it's my turn to talk about some music.
Yeah, throw it down, Mike. You're so passionate about this.
So I'm a big proponent of constantly listening to music. I typically stay away from harder stuff, I think. Like, you know, for example, Stoner Rock, okay? A band called Sleep made a record called Dope Smoker in the 90s that is literally one song that's an hour long. How in the hell are you going to market that, right?
Yeah.
Label dropped them. Album went into cult status, started getting passed around as a bootleg. Early 2000s, Holy Mountain bought the rights. They repressed it, put it out. And then about 7 years ago, Third Man Records signed them, re-put it out, and then re-put out their new album, The Sciences. Sleep is a phenomenal band.
Yeah.
They are literally the godfathers of stoner rock. But that's the thing that I don't really understand is like the stoner rock, stoner metal gets this genre, and they call it that because it's real slow, it's extremely repetitive, it's very long. I get it, but and I get Dope Smoker. I love that record. It's so good. You know, A Drop Out of Life with Bong in Hand is probably one of my favorite lines of all time. Follow the smoke through the rift-filled land.
Dude, those are good lyrics.
When you talk about Sleep, when they made that record, they got I think it was $100,000 pre-signing bonus, which is insane in the 90s. That's just unbelievable. Within a year, supposedly, they blew it all on nothing but orange amplifiers and thought.
Are you kidding me?
Like,
those are some good amps, though.
Dudes were like traveling with like pounds on them, smoking constantly.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, Al Cisneros, the bass player and kind of the lyricist behind the band, he starts talking about very, very old Christianity writing, some of the stuff that's like non-canonical, that's not in the King James version.
Apocryphal is what they call that. Yeah.
And so a lot of that stuff, when you look at it from the perspective of a pot user, like the anointing oil probably was cannabis oil.
Man.
And so
that's where it grew. That's where it came from.
He starts to get this idea that most of these guys in the beginning were using the plant as a religious plant.
Yeah.
And so his writings are from that perspective. He would, after Sleep broke up, start a band called Ohm, which is very, very, very much in that vein, but it's also very heavy at the same time. So I don't know where I'm going with all this, but at the same time, that's a good record to listen to, but also I tend to stay away from those for some reason.
Also, something you got to know about Mike is he listens to almost everything on vinyl.
Well, yes and no. When I'm at home, yes. When I'm in my space, yes. But since I listen to music so much and so often, I have a Spotify account. I listen to it constantly on there, and that's where I check stuff. I mean, you think about like back in the day when you go to Borders to buy a CD, right? You know, scan. I bought so many good CDs and jazz records and stuff that I didn't have any clue about when I was a teenager because of that stuff.
Yeah.
Shades of Blue from Madlib, which is a phenomenal album. I will never forget walking in there and scanning that and then hearing a song and being like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. This is so badass. That didn't exist. Now you can. But now you hear about a band, you're like, ooh, Fubu Sushi, what's that? Type the name in, listen to it for a second, you're like, oh, this is badass. Or that's a cool name, but a horrible band.
Yeah.
I don't really ever stop. I can't stop. I listen to music constantly. But where I'm going with this is usually for me, considering the fact that I'm probably stoned most of the time anyway, I listen to all kinds of things. But if I was to create or curate for someone, I would say that stick to atmospheric stuff, stick to stuff that isn't too heady.
Yeah.
Jazz is great, classical is great.
Ooh, I've got an album. What about this? It really has nothing to do with weed, but, smoke weed and listen to it. It's awesome. Songs in the Key of Life.
Oh, Stevie Wonder is my favorite artist.
Amazing.
That's not his best album, though.
Well, what's his best album? What's his best album?
It's his magnum opus.
Yeah.
But my personal favorite, it would be a tie between Music of My Mind and Talking Book, probably. Innervisions, too. Like, that dude, we could do a podcast about Stevie Wonder. Literally every year he put an album out in the 70s. Mm-hmm. Album of the year. The only time he didn't win that year is when he didn't put an album out. And we're talking about a blind guy who literally played almost all the instruments on those records himself. You can sometimes hear, like in the early ones when he was doing that himself, like stick clicks and stuff. This dude's blind. He's playing drums.
Did you know there's a conspiracy theory out there about Stevie Wonder not being blind?
No, that's bullshit. It's almost that you're stepping on greatness if you say that. That's like blasphemy in my opinion, because like you cannot undercut what that guy does and did for popular culture. Just golly, there are so many people in band. Like on the level of the Beatles, especially in black music, where they are so influenced by him that it's on that level. Mm-hmm. Like artists, rappers, musicians, people that I would say, I didn't really give a shit about this until the Beatles are the same. So Stevie is my number one and always will be. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Soul music, also great suggestion. Anything that like just elevates. And that also, again, is subjective. I could say I don't like listening to heavy stuff, when I'm partaking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you might be like, dude, that's the only time I want to. It's like the whole getting high before you work out. Some people love it. Mm-hmm. Some people are like, that's the last thing I want to do. So I think really what comes down to is just try and figure out what you like, stick to it. Buy yourself a really good quality turntable and start spending thousands of dollars on vinyl.
That's the only answer.
Start growing your own pot so you save money and use that money you save to buy more records. We got one more break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the biggest 420 festival in the area happening this Saturday. You don't want to miss it. We'll be back in just a few minutes on the Greene County Podcast. We are back one more time. It is the Greene County Podcast, and now in this last break, we're going to talk about a pretty cool event coming up this Saturday at the Treehouse Lounge on South Campbell.
Yeah, speaking of music.
Right by Nixa, right by the James River, right off the James River, and it's all to benefit Canines for Camo. It is the Rolling on the River 420 Festival, and of course, since it is at Treehouse, you can all partake outside and indoors.
Yeah, if you haven't been to the Treehouse Lounge yet, it is amazing.
This would be a good opportunity for you to get out, check it out. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of different tickets, VIP perks, all that stuff happening. There's going to be live music happening all day. I believe it starts at 2 in the afternoon. It goes 2 to 10.
2 to 10, and they're going to have some campsites too, I believe.
Yep. And if you want to stay overnight, obviously
good place to
do that. Sleep under the stars. Again, lots of great music. They have got really cool special stuff. Sampling. Of course, we'll be out there.
Yeah, we'll be out there with a very, very cool item. We posted it to socials. Maybe you saw it. It is this giant weed Gatling gun.
And this thing is unbelievable. Like I'd seen videos of dudes doing these things in like tents at festivals like this, and then Mason brought it over to my house one night before we had practice and literally set me on fire with that thing. Cause I was like,
Awesome.
unbelievable.
Got it from Weedman Glassman. It's up in Bolivar.
Yep.
Huge warehouse full of so many pieces. They've got silicone, pipes, rolling papers for days, and of course the Gatling gun. He even got a brand new Gatling gun, which is
Better than the one that you had.
yeah, it has a tripod that it sits on, and you can just like
Predator style, that thing.
dude, it's amazing.
Again,
Come out and see us 420.
we'll have it 420 Fest, and we'll be walking around with it and blowing it in people's faces if they allow us to. Rolling on the River 420. You can find more on Facebook.
Yeah, what are some of the bands that are coming?
Some of the bands.
Because they're gonna have music all day long.
Yes, they are. I did see that Sister Lucille is playing as a duo for what I saw.
Cool. It's under the discussion tab on Facebook on the event.
Here.
We'll share that too.
Let's see here. There we go.
It's gonna be a blast. Oh, there it is.
Hold on. Sister Lucille Band, Joe Dillstrom, always great. Widowmakers and Ethan Jackson Band are going to be playing, and then they're going to have some DJs and performance inside the Treehouse Lounge as well. Some singer-songwriter stuff there. So a lot of cool stuff. There's going to be games, kickball games, giant inflatable beach volleyball, lots of different foods to check out because I know you're going to have the munchies. So again, find out all the info on Facebook or search Treehouse Lounge on Facebook or Rolling on the River 420 Festival on Facebook, and you should be able to find all the links and stuff about who's playing where, how to get your tickets, and all that good stuff.
Dude,
And
I can't wait. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like the first big cannabis event in Springfield.
that's not true.
No? Okay,
No,
correct me. What?
That's not true.
Was
When I
that
was
one
in
last
high
year?
school, when I was in high school, bro,
Okay.
listen, when I was in high school,
Wasn't even legal.
this is gonna get me so much shit. I'm just gonna put this out there. We're not a religious podcast, okay? But if you are practicing whatever faith you do, I'm not discrediting you and your beliefs or your faith at all. It's a subjective thing, okay?
This needs a disclaimer.
One's faith is one's faith. And I have a second to step on the soapbox and talk about this, okay?
Okay, yeah.
I, right now in my life, am agnostic, which by definition means I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know I read the Bible front to back many times. I've read the Quran. I've read the the Old Testament.
The Torah.
I've read the Torah. I've read
Apocryphal.
so much stuff about Buddhism and Islam, which, by the way, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, because not Islam,
Bhagavad Gita, man.
Hindu, Bhagavad Gita, but Hindu, that religion has been passed not by mouth to mouth, but written history for thousands of years. And some of the stuff they describe in some of that text is literally like an alien nuclear battle that's happening.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's crazy in the context of like how these people 3,000 years ago talk about this stuff. And you look at it now, you're like, it sounds like they're having a space war.
Oh, dude, I've heard
That rabbit
story.
hole itself is crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. I'm just putting it out there. I am agnostic,
Yeah.
okay, and I have been for a long time. It doesn't mean I don't discredit any religion. It just means I don't know, and I like to look at all of them and make my decision from that. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
So when I was at school, I'm not gonna mention where, but if you do your detective work, you can find out. They started this thing called "See You at the Pole."
Oh, yeah. I remember
And
that.
every a certain day, hundreds of kids would meet up at the school pole and do a morning prayer,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't go to that. I was one of the organizers of See You at the Bowl.
Dude.
And so at the same time, there would be hundreds of kids outside of our high school by a pole praying. There would be about 20 or 30 of us behind the football field in the woods, passing probably 10 bowls, pipes, barns, or whatever we had in a circle. And so we come in, all these kids would be with smiles on their face and from
Dude.
praying and stuff.
Every other Wednesday.
And we come in just reeking. But never want to call us on it. No one ever called us on it. So yes, Rolling on the River is probably the first organized,
Yeah, I don't
and
think
legal event.
yeah.
But buddy, way
Since it's
before
become
then,
recreational,
we
it's
had
the
See You at
first
Bowl
event.
at my high school, and I don't know if it continued after I left. I know that they did it the year after I graduated because I made damn sure those seniors knew.
Yeah.
Keep the tradition going. I don't know if it's still happening, but
See you at the bowl. I understand why you needed the
hell
disclaimer.
yeah, dude. I'm gonna get hate mail. It's not sacrilege. It's just I pray in a different way.
Yeah.
And again, you go back to the text, the Old Testament. I guarantee you, they were partaking in it too, bruh.
yeah. Hey,
been-
you know, when you're in a giant circle passing around a bunch of joints and bowls, it's hard not to feel some
Describe it all
fellowship.
religious
It's
experience
hard
to me,
not to feel
please.
fellowship, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Bunch of people getting together for a common
That's
cause.
the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, we protect, we pray, and we have our faith, and we do all that stuff in our own way, and it's subjective to the person, and you should never discredit them for that. And again, that's what this is all about.
Yeah, so if you're interested in some burnt offerings, you should stop by Rolling on the River 420 event.
And look for us, Green County Podcast, out there as well. Subscribe, like, share, and we will see you next time right here. Same stony time, same stony place.
So that our children are obliged to learn the truth, because it is only through knowledge that we can safely protect them.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not provide medical or legal advice.